My name is Grace Andrus, and welcome to Fulfilling the Mission podcast, a BYU-Idaho radio podcast where we explore how faculty are helping students become disciples of Jesus Christ in their homes, in the church, in their respective communities, and also in our community at BYU-Idaho. Today we're doing an alumni episode, and I'd like to welcome BYU-Idaho alumni Derek Whipple and Kevin Bradshaw.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So before we get too far into it, just introduce yourself, your major, when you graduated, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm Kevin Bradshaw. I graduated in April of 2020. So that was kind of right as COVID happened. So my last half of my final semester was spent remotely from my in-laws' basement. I graduated with a degree in civil engineering with an emphasis in structural. And so I've since been working in the industry, in the private consulting industry as a structural engineer. I passed my licensed professional engineering exam a couple of years ago, so I'm a licensed PE in the state of Idaho. Yeah, that's kind of me.
That's awesome. Cool. And then Kevin?
Derek.
Derek.
You're fine.
You're Kevin, you're Derek.
Yep.
Okay.
So I graduated April of 2012. I did mechanical engineering. Back then there was no emphasis. That's kind of a newer thing in the college. So I graduated mechanical engineering. Have since got my master's in engineering management through Old Dominion University. And since I've graduated, I've done a couple different jobs. Right now I'm currently at the Idaho National Lab. I'm a nuclear safety inspector, and so I provide oversight for all the nuclear work that goes on at Idaho National Lab. That's fine.
So you guys both described your current jobs. What does your day-to-day look like? What do you do? Because I'm not engineering, and so I don't even know what it looks like to work at the INL or to do what you said that you were doing. So what does it look like?
So we are a structural engineering firm, a consultant, and so I describe it as an architect designs the skin of a building, we design the bones.
Okay.
So an architect is not qualified to design every aspect of a building. There's way too much, right? There's electrical components, plumbing components, structural components, and so the architect is the overarching project manager for any given project, but they hire consultants to help them with the more fine details of the code that they don't know. And so we have a network of clients, local architects generally, that we work with, and they hire us as a consultant to them. And so we put together the drawings or the blueprints for the full structure of the building. And so we'll do any type of building, any type of material. Pretty much the only thing we don't touch is bridges. Those are kind of their own animal. We leave that for the highway department. But any other structure we will design. And so we've been blessed to work on a few temples for the church, which has been a big blessing. And they were not even doing temples when I started there. That's not why I chose that company. I chose the company because it was just a lot of good people. And so that kind of fell into our lap. So that's been a big blessing. But day to day, it's just working through calculations and reviewing code and designing the building and answering a lot of questions. We're pretty heavily involved even after the construction starts. A lot of phone calls from contractors asking for clarification on things, and then we'll do site visits as well. So travel out to the project site a few times through the build and do some inspections. Cool.
So an architect will come to your company and hire the company as a whole, or hire individual?
They'll hire the company as a whole, and then we'll assign, a project manager to that, and then a project engineer. And generally you gravitate toward your certain clients. So I have my 4 or 5 architects that are a little closer with me, and so if they bring us a project, it's kind of just assumed that I'll be the one to manage it.
Okay.
And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, my day-to-day is very different because I'm in an oversight role. So a lot of what I do is verifying that the work that we do is safe within the nuclear realm. And so a lot of what I do is watching what people do, observing how people work, observing what they do, reviewing. So we'll have engineers do calculations similar to what he does, and I get to review it, and it's a kind of like a third check, right? We're trying to find things that slip through the cracks that could create a potential future issue that we're trying to protect the public, the workers, the environment, and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of what I do is reviewing and meeting with people, interviewing people, checking records, checking calculations, checking operations are in accordance with expectations, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's. I also do a lot of travel out to the desert to where the nuclear sites are. Involves sometimes I spend weeks reading documents at my desk. Sometimes I head out there and watch a lot of work that goes on, have a lot of meetings, that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, that's a lot of details both you guys have to pay attention to, because that third check, or even you like meeting with an architect, I've seen some architects and they have all these awesome and amazing designs, but it's like, how do we make that happen? They go to you.
Bring them back to reality.
Yes, exactly. You're like, well, you can't have a wall there. But yes, that's awesome. So how did you get to the job that you have right now? Was that the first job you landed after graduating? You graduated more recently, or did you graduate a couple more years ago? Or?
So my path was pretty long because, so I've been out of college a while. When I graduated, I went and worked for Honda. I was a manufacturing design engineer for them in Ohio, doing automotive, working on the actual Honda and Acura vehicles. I did that for a couple years, and then I got recruited and went and lived in South Carolina, and I worked with the Navy. So I was working with the Navy's nuclear program. So I graduated with mechanical engineering, but a lot of what I look at day to day and deal with is less mechanical and more nuclear, due to that training that they provided through the nuclear Navy. And so I never joined the Navy, but I stayed as a civilian, did all of the same training, and then I was a instructor and taught all the Navy operators how to operate their nuclear submarines. And so I worked on a submarine day to day, that job. And then I came out to the Idaho National Lab because a lot of people don't know that Idaho has a very strong foundation in nuclear in our country. There's a lot of important milestones that took place out here in Idaho, out in the desert. And so a lot of the Navy was started out here in Idaho. And so I worked with the Navy's program out here before I transferred over and became a nuclear inspector, what I'm doing now. So quite a change in pace. But I've been in nuclear for most of my career due to that as well, though.
Do you prefer the nuclear side over the Navy side? What you did at the Navy?
So there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
I think right now nuclear is pretty exciting. There's a lot of momentum going on right now with nuclear in general.
Yeah.
The Navy side was incredible to work with the Navy at the tip of the spear. We're literally working with the new officers and enlisted that came in and were about to go to a nuclear submarine and be out there protecting the country. And so to be a part of that was incredible. But the pace of work with that is also incredible because they hold you to a very high standard and a very high pace. And so I wasn't home a lot during those periods and stuff like that. So getting out of that and having a more balanced life has been really great too.
And then, what about you?
Mine was a little more simple. So I made a connection with a colleague, a peer in my final semester, and he was working for this company doing an internship, and I was like, hey, can I have your boss's email? Shot him an email, and so I started working for them my last semester as an internship of sorts, even though I'd already done one. But I was only taking 2 classes, and so I was able to work about 30 hours a week. So I did that for my last semester, and then when I graduated, I went on board full time and been there ever since. Loved it. Been through some changes, a little bit of rebranding of the company, lost some good folks, brought some good folks on, but it's been a blessing, and it's just been really fun to work on a lot of different projects and see some of the stuff that you designed, go vertical, and good work-life balance, just good people at the company. So
That's awesome. And it's located in Idaho Falls.
we were in Idaho Falls, but when the company rebranded, we actually moved up here to Rexburg. So we're actually up here. We're leasing an office space, but we're in the process of actually building our own building here in town.
Exciting.
So it's being framed starting next week.
Did you design that building too?
I actually did. So.
Okay, there you go. I was going to say, I was like, that would be pretty easy to find someone to design the building you're working at.
Yes.
Cool. So during your time at BYU-I, were you guys involved with your societies, or did you take any part in those types of things?
So I did. I was in the Tau Beta Pi Society, which is the engineering honor society. So it includes mechanical, civil, electrical, software engineering, There might be one or two more that I'm not thinking. I don't know if you know.
I know nothing about it.
No. So, yeah, so essentially you have to have a certain GPA to be offered, and not everyone that's offered joins the society, but that was pretty fun. They do a few activities every semester, and then my second to last semester, I think it was, I served as the president of the society, and that was pretty fun. We got to work with Adam Dean because he was the advisor for Tau Beta Pi, so he's in the mechanical engineering department. And then at one point I got to go out to Ohio for the national convention that they had out there. So they do like an annual convention where the chapter presidents from the whole country have to come together and vote on like new bylaws and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun. So that was the main thing I did, a little bit with ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, but I was more involved with the Tau Beta Pi.
That's awesome. And is that where you found your connection for your job, or was that just like a colleague?
The connection for my job was just another kid in my class that was studying structural as well, but I think, yeah, he was in Tau Beta Pi.
Okay, so. Cool. That's awesome. And then...
So during my time, that's when I thought about that, I think that's probably one of my biggest regrets when I was here, and one of my recommendations to anybody that comes through BYU-Idaho. There are more, because I don't think that existed. I'd never heard of that when I was here.
They've definitely done
Seems
a lot
like it more,
in past years to have more of those types of things.
See, that's awesome. So we didn't have as much. I participated, we were building some, there are projects like Baja Car. They do different things where they build a Baja Car and race it. And when I was doing that, we were trying to start up a glider, building like an actual wind glider, remote control wind gliders and stuff. And I worked a little bit on that, but I was so focused on getting good grades and studying all the time that I didn't understand the importance of things like that. Like I didn't see the importance of, I was part of the Society of Mechanical Engineering, ASME group, but I didn't actively, participate. I wasn't like a president, I wasn't like a secretary. I didn't really help with those organizations as much as looking back, and that would be my recommendation to anybody else, is that those build your resume. Those types of things, you get the good grades, and I focus just on that part of my resume, but the other parts, those projects, those are things that you stick out on your resume and make you a well-rounded engineer versus just putting your nose in the book and studying. So
that's fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that can get really good grades, but that doesn't mean they'll be a good engineer.
Right.
You need that at least a
100%.
Moderate level of social skill.
True.
And the ability to communicate with other people. And so you often don't get that in classes, unfortunately. I know they're trying to improve those sorts of things, but those societies and just getting out there and doing internships and things like that is really going to take you to the next level.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, when you went and furthered your education, did you get more involved?
Nope. So beyond that, when I continued to get my master's and everything, I was working full time and getting in. So it was a survival mode of
fair.
I just want to get this done.
Keeping your head above water.
Yeah. It was
That's fair. So talking about internships, did you intern at the company you work for now?
I did. So that last semester, we could call that an internship. It wasn't the one on record with the school. So I had done a previous internship 2 summers before that with a materials testing company down in Idaho Falls. So essentially we would go out, the contractor or the project owner hires you to come out and do things like soil density testing, concrete strength testing, rebar inspections, weld inspections, things of that nature. So it's a quality control company. Very and you put together reports and submit them back to the owner.
And then the owner fixes them, or?
Yeah, then the contractor, if they don't pass the inspection, they fix it. But it's more just a documentation and making sure that the contractor is building the building per the drawings. So you're helping hold them to those drawings. It's a QC.
Cool. That's awesome. And you did that 2 summers before you graduated?
So it was like between my freshman and sophomore years. The summers just went and worked.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then where did you?
So I did my internship out at the Idaho National Lab.
Oh, no way.
But one thing is, there's 3 main companies that work out there. And so the company I worked for was not the company I work for now. So I've worked for 3 companies, 3 groups at Idaho National Lab. The Idaho National Lab is about the size of Rhode Island, so it's massive.
Holy cow.
And there's over 10,000 people total, I think, in the lab, when you think of the lab. But there's multiple contractors within that. And so I worked on a project more on the cleanup side is what they call it, taking care of radioactive waste and nuclear waste out in the desert. And then I worked for the Navy's contractor, and then now I work for the actual Idaho National Lab contractor, which
That's
is,
awesome.
yeah.
I didn't realize the INL was so big.
It's
I also
massive.
didn't know there was 3 different companies out there. I thought it was
Yeah.
all one.
Yeah. So there's one main contractor that runs the buses and runs the lab and is in charge of the infrastructure, and then other contractors that do pieces of, and then there's lots of subcontractors and smaller companies that help, like, even structural companies will come out and do certain things. There's a lot of companies involved.
So when you were studying engineering at BYU-I, both of you guys, was there ever moments where you wanted to switch your major? How did you know that engineering was for you? Because it's a heavy degree. I would say it's very intimidating for most people. And so walk me through that.
I never wanted to switch, but I didn't come in as,
Okay.
I came in all through high school thinking that I was going to be a pharmacist.
Okay. Yeah.
Because my grandma was a pharmacist, and my dad, I grew up with my dad always saying, "You're smart, you could be a doctor. You're smart, you could be a lawyer," right? So when people asked me what I was going to do in high school, I was like, well, I don't really like blood. So what's a doctor that I can be that doesn't really have blood? I was like, I could be a pharmacist.
Yeah.
My grandma was one. So actually in high school, I worked at a local pharmacy, like a small little, just as a clerk, like passing out medications and stuff. And I went through my whole mission thinking that. People would ask me, and I was like, I was going to go to BYU-Idaho, do 2 years of generals, prerequisites, and then transfer and get accepted to the Idaho State University pharmacy program, because they actually have one of the top pharmacy programs in the country. And so I got here, and they asked me to declare. I started into my first semester, and I had to declare a major. I was like, chemistry, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I really started to question. I was like, I don't even like that stuff. At least I don't think I do.
Yeah.
So I actually took the career exploration class. I can't remember what the code is for it, but it's like a 100 level class. It's like 1 credit. It was here in the MC somewhere, one of the classrooms here. And they help you, and they have guest speakers come in, and you explore different paths. And I'd always been the guy that would tinker and build stuff growing up. And so when the engineering guest speakers started coming in, we were talking about it, it really started to click. And then you had to do some interviews with some engineers. And so I have a brother-in-law that works down at Hill Air Force Base as a mechanical engineer. And then I knew another guy from back in Oregon that was a civil engineer. And after doing a couple of interviews and really thinking through what civil engineering could look like, I was like, this is definitely what I want to do. And then it wasn't very long after I was in the program that structures particularly was what grasped my attention, because civil is quite broad. You could go to water, soils, bridge design, but structures is kind of just a big part of it.
So how far were you just like in your first semester when you made the switch from?
I think it was my second, but yeah,
Okay, cool.
It was pretty early on.
So it wasn't like you weren't having to backtrack too much?
No, there
That's
was
nice.
no retake,
That is so nice.
anything like that. So
Yeah. And then
So
what's your experience?
mine's very similar, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I actually started out biology. My plan was to go to med school. I was going to be a orthopedic surgeon. I had knee surgery out of high school, and I was like, wow, this is a cool job. Like, I would love to go do this. And so I started pre-med. That was my plan to start here. And I took a similar class. It was biology focus 101 of like, hey, you get a biology degree. This is what you can go do with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to do any of those things. Right. Only thing on there was medical school. And then I started to like, what if I don't go to medical school? So I came from a family that never went to college, so I didn't understand college very well, and I was worried that, if I get to that point and I go to medical school, then I'm going to be a biology teacher the rest of my life, and I didn't want to do that. And so I started researching more, and then I found out you can do engineering and still do medical school. I was like, perfect, I'll do that. And then if I don't get to medical school, I have an engineering degree at least. And then I think the program speaks for itself, that you have 2 people that started in the program and then like, oh, this is awesome. And so when I started taking classes and when I switched over after my first semester to mechanical engineering, as soon as I got into it, I was like, this is awesome. And then so it's like, do I do medical school or grad school? What do I do? And I just liked it so much that I was like, I'll do medical school later. That'll be my backup plan. If I go work and I hate it, then I'll go back to school. And here I am. I haven't gone back to medical school yet.
Yeah.
So still got.
Hey, so you must like
still
it
have
a little
time.
bit.
Yeah.
If you haven't gone to medical school yet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like interesting. You both similar. We're like, I don't know,
Yeah.
but then those classes, those intro to bio or the
Yeah.
career exploration, super helpful. They
Super
have one
important.
for communications. I think they have one for they should, I
Yeah.
think.
I think people just need to remember, don't be committed. Like when you come in, keep your options open.
Yeah.
Like you can declare a major and change, and don't be embarrassed to take that class, the career exploration class.
Yeah,
like,
it's so helpful.
You're not expected to have it figured out when you get here. You're still in the discovery phase of your life.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
most people here are 18 to 20, and that is so young to decide what you're going to do.
for the next 35 years.
Yeah, so it's awesome. Those classes are so helpful. Did you guys have like a mentor or professor that really helped you along your path?
Yeah. So brother Nathan Harris is the main structural professor in the civil department, and to this day we're still pretty close, good friends.
That's
and
awesome.
so we've sponsored since I've left. We've sponsored 4 senior capstone projects, so that's allowed me to come up here and be involved.
That's awesome.
And then when he went to take his sabbatical last fall, he reached out and asked if I would teach one of his classes.
Wow.
And so I taught as an adjunct for the reinforced concrete class on campus, and that was a good experience to come. And I just love the spirit here. I love to be up here every time I come here. I'm just glad to be back, and I enjoyed school. Like I know a lot of people, I'm so glad to be done, but like seriously, every day I just loved being here and just learning, soaking up the information.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Brother Harris was my go-to guy.
And he's here still, right?
Yep, he's still.
Are you going to go see him before you leave?
Probably. Yeah, we're still in good contact,
That's
like
awesome.
pretty regularly, and we hire quite a bit of interns every year, and so I will pretty regularly. I'll send him an email. I'll say, hey, we're looking for some interns. Could you announce it in all your classes, all of his structural classes? So he'll throw my email up on the PowerPoint, and then I
awesome.
get blasted with resumes.
That's amazing.
So yeah, he's been a good help for us.
That's awesome.
I think that's one of the things that sets BYU-Idaho apart from other universities is that the professors are not focused on research and making money.
Yeah.
They're focused on the student success. And so literally every single professor I had, I felt like they were my mentor.
Yeah.
Some I got along with better and was able to talk to more, but there was at no point you didn't feel comfortable going into their class, into their office and asking for help and talking to, Brother Dean or Brother Schellenberg. All of them were awesome. And so I didn't have one that stuck out more than the other versus, they're all awesome. They're so focused on students.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think across the board, BYU-I, the professors really do care about their students. And I think, especially when the effort's reciprocated too, from student to teacher to mentor. So
yeah, I'll go to my
awesome.
grave with the opinion that you cannot get a better education in America for the price of BYU-Idaho because of the lack of research. They're just so focused on this. They have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
They don't have some grant they need to go write a paper for to make sure they get funding next semester. It's just 100% the classes they teach, and you're actually being taught by their professor and not their assistant.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So.
No, it's true. It's awesome. So it's awesome you guys are both so passionate about BYU-I. So it's great you're here.
That's good. Yeah. Good
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
awesome.
That would be really bad.
It would be really,
Make it awkward. Yeah.
really awkward if you guys were like, hated my experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what advice would you give to current BYU-Idaho students? You kind of touched on it a little bit. You said getting involved.
Yeah, I would echo that be more well-rounded. Getting a 4.0 GPA is nice, but like he said, that they're looking for people that are going to go communicate. Because a lot of part of an engineering is when you're doing any kind of engineering, there is a huge piece of that is communication. Mm-hmm. And so whether you're starting a new project, there's a communication with the customer, and that communication throughout a project if you're doing design work, or if you're going to, like I provide oversight, a lot of that is me going and communicating to people. There is a big piece that's technical, and you have to understand the technical side of things. But the communication and being well-rounded is important. So being more involved, doing projects, looking for those internships, looking for those types of opportunities, that'll prepare yourself for the future way better than just studying all the time.
That's awesome. That's totally fair.
Yeah, I would echo what he's saying and just encourage people to get practical experience. For us, if someone comes in and gives me a resume with a 4.0 GPA, but all they ever did was work at the smoothie place in their local town,
That.
right? Or if I get a resume with a 3.1 GPA, but the person was a framer for every summer with his dad growing up and knows how to frame houses, 100% I'll choose that guy every time, because he understands how buildings come together. He understands, he's had his hands in it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so just go find something that's at least semi-related to what you're doing and just get a job in that industry, right? Don't just
Yeah.
take some job in town because it's convenient or easy. Try, even if it pays a couple dollars less an hour, but it's more related to your major, it's totally worth the experience, because it's going to pay dividends when you're able to get and secure a better job later on and make more money. That's worth taking a little bit of a pay cut now.
Yeah, I think you guys are both right. What were you going to say?
I was just say, he reminded me that much like his story of how he got his job, the other thing I would really harp on is keeping those connections of those internships, those jobs
Yeah.
that you do, the professors here at BYU, keeping those connections, whether through LinkedIn or emails or texting or whatever, because that networking is huge. It's so important. I have my current job because of networking, right? And I've got a couple other examples of the networking piece of it. It's super, super important, because they can speak for your work rather than just a piece of paper of your resume.
And you don't know how life's going to go and what circles are going to come. It's even, I haven't even been graduated 5 years, right? 5.5 years, that's not a super long time, but some of the circles that have already started to happen, it's like, wow, I'm really glad I was nice to that guy in that meeting.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you don't know, you'd be amazed at some of the people that reappear in your life that you think you're done with. And so just having good relationships, just being kind to everybody, because they are maybe a time when they are in a position that they could exercise some unrighteous dominion over you. And so you may want to just be on their good side.
That's totally fair. I think that is what I've found is when I have friends who can't find jobs after they graduate, it's because they lack that job experience before they graduate. So I think
Yeah.
it's super important. And obviously, both you guys have benefited from those things. That's awesome. So how, kind of taking a different, switching gears here a little bit, how has this school being a part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and being so involved with your testimony in the Spirit, how has that helped you in your college career and then on?
So something I teach my kids in the youth I'm around is that what sets this school apart is starting with a prayer, in class, and having those. There's still stories that professors told us that were related to their sharing their testimonies in class that I still share with people, that I still hang on to, that I repeat those stories of clear examples that our Heavenly Father is He's perfect at everything. He's a perfect structural engineer. He's a perfect nuclear safety inspector. He's a perfect designer. He's a perfect everything. And we have access to him, right? So that aspect of this school is irreplaceable. And the professors teach you that. They don't just, they rely on it, but they also try to teach you that to rely on that and to use the Spirit, because you can literally tap into this perfect resource and then use that to study, to learn to fix problems, to solve problems.
Yeah.
So.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I would say just the safety in the Spirit here allows your brain to be focused on, right? You're not so much worried about some of the other worldly things, and it allows you to focus on your studies. And I was reminded just recently of an analogy, and I think it was from a conference talk years ago, but essentially comparing the commandments to a kite string, right? If you don't have a string on a kite, the kite will just fall to the ground, right? It needs the resistance of the string, and that's what allows it to fly higher. And so I know there's definitely students out there that disagree with some of the honor code policies and the rules that the campus may have, but you got to recognize that those are there for your benefit, and they help hold you down, and they keep you out of bad situations, right? So we just don't have, like, the students here just don't have the problems with the law. They don't have the problems with a lot of these other things that so many other universities in the country, like, you have all these students that are fighting that stuff. Now imagine having those stressors in your life while also having a final exam.
Yeah.
Like, we should be grateful that we just live our lives in a way that it removes that entire element. If we just live the gospel, we can focus so much energy on our family and on our studies and on enjoying the outdoors that we don't have. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
No, those are both you guys great thoughts. How has that kind of poured over into your career as well? Like, do you feel like you still are able to lead with the Spirit? I mean, you both are still in Idaho, and there's a lot of members here, which makes it nice. But just in your career elsewhere.
Yeah, I think just having a culture like at our company, that's one of the reasons I chose it and stayed is because of the large amount of members. Now we do have a couple that aren't, but they're still great people.
Yeah.
And it's just so nice to be in a place where everyone has common values. And so there's never that awkwardness of people bringing up things that you're not comfortable talking about, or, you know, they respect when you have to leave a little early from work to go do a youth activity.
Yeah.
Right? There's the respect there. It's not like any animosity about it. Everyone just understands. And then the family balance is just insane. Like, it's just, you can't beat that outside of East Idaho, Utah, in terms of finding jobs that respect, you know, the need to be with your family. And if we're not spending time with our family, like, why are we even here? That's my opinion, but I just really get bothered by people that spend so much time away from their families with work. It's just not the reason we're on this earth.
Yeah.
And
So I had an experience at work when I was working with the Navy in which I had a very stressful thing happen at work. I was in the situation, and I did not perform well at all. And it was pretty crushing, right? It was pretty difficult to work through, and, you know, felt like a failure. And, you know, the quote, there's no success outside of your home makes up for failure in your home. And it goes both ways, right? So I still think that important thing that I learned here at BYU was to use the Spirit in my day-to-day. I realized that, you know, failing, having a mistake or any kind of failing part of your job still doesn't matter as long as you're successful with your family, right? And so that really brought me a lot of peace in that time, because I realized I was still using the Spirit and I was still seeking the Spirit, and it helped. I don't know it probably would have been crushing, and I don't know if my performance would have ever returned after that experience that I had without, you know, having the church, having the Spirit, having that kind of what I learned, my foundation here at BYU-Idaho.
That's awesome. That's just awesome. Is there anything that you were surprised with in your career, or that maybe might surprise other people, that you were like, I don't remember this?
I was surprised how many people are not willing to really work.
Oh, really?
Just in general. I think there's a lot of hardworking individuals that come to this university and are grateful for such a great university. And when I got in the real world, even in my internship while I was at school, I was surprised how lazy people can be once they get to a career and they kind of survive in a career. And it can set you apart by just showing up and working every single day, all day, like actually putting in effort. That really surprised me. You expect these adults, they go on and do their jobs, and you expect them all to be changing the world, and then you find out that they just sit in a cubicle and do nothing all day and then go home, and it's surprising.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I was surprised by how much I did not know.
Oh, fair.
It's incredible. I mean, I learned more in the first 6 months of my job than I did in 2 years here, for real. And so it's important for people to realize that you're here to get very basic principles. You will not master or even come close to mastering any field or topic in your undergrad.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think I harp. It's like, yeah, the good grades, and he's saying the same thing. The good grades are good and important, but also the experience is way more valuable, because you could get a 4.0 and then you're still going to go to your job and you're still not going to know anything.
Yeah.
And the guy with a 3.5 is going to come to the job and you're both not going to know anything, and you will be on the same level playing field. But if you have the experience, then all of a sudden the guy with the higher GPA, you're a little bit above him because of that experience.
Right.
And so for me in my career where I'm at, I've considered higher education multiple times, and would love to have that, but it just doesn't make any sense. I've already been told that I won't get a significant raise. And I have a coworker that did go back and get his master's, and he was like, well, that was actually easier than my undergrad at BYU-Idaho. He went and got his master's, and it was easier. And so it's just like, why jump through that hoop, essentially? And so for me, I learned way more just staying in my position and progressing and trying to take the next exams for licensure and stuff. But it just depends on how your career takes you, because for him, right, higher education definitely is important, and pay is going to be reflective of that oftentimes when you work more in the government sector. So
yeah. Did you find that your further education was easier than your undergrad?
I did, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
which I think
It
is
was.
a testament to BYU-Idaho, just how well they're teaching and how aggressively. Because I know, so that same coworker, right? So he went to this university, and there were people coming into that master's program that were from that, did their undergraduate at that university or somewhere other than BYU-Idaho, and they were struggling a little bit more. And he was like, "Oh, we learned this in junior year when I took structural analysis or whatever."
Yeah.
Like, there's just, you're learning a lot here, and so it really sets you up that if you do go to that next level, you may find that your graduate degree is not terribly difficult.
Yeah, that's amazing. You guys, your like passion for BYU-Y is definitely, it's definitely like rubbing off on me, because I feel like I love BYU-Y. I'm happy to be here, but like seeing where you guys are now and that you still reflect and love it still, and you're even talking to your kids and saying BYU-Y really is an amazing place, and it really is. It's awesome. So kind of because this is the Fulfilling the Mission podcast, we like to talk about how has your experience at BYU-Y helped you fulfill the mission, I guess, now in your careers. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but if we could reflect on it again, that would be awesome.
I think, like I had said before, I'll echo that I think for us to be disciples, you have to keep the chain of a strong family going, right? And I think BYU helped me build that foundation. Me and my wife, we met here. We got married pretty early here. We both graduated from BYU-Idaho, and then we had a family after we left here. We didn't have any kids while we were here, and we were able to focus on our degrees, get that foundation, and then now we have this incredible life, right? I have 4 kids, and that my family is the most important thing, and that building that foundation and teaching them properly and keeping them with strong testimonies, I think is the way that BYU helped me stay a disciple of Jesus Christ, right, and stay focused on our Savior.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I would echo what he's saying, and just being a good person, just the being here, being at BYU-Idaho. If you follow the honor code and you go to church and you keep your covenants and do all these things, you're going to go into the world as a halfway decent person, hopefully, right? There's going to be people better than you, and there's going to be people worse than you, but you'll be a halfway decent person. And kind of like how he's saying, you said earlier, it's amazing how many lazy people there are out there. Well, it's amazing how many shady and kind of sketchy people there are too. And so just being a halfway decent person and the preparation that this place gives you for that is just going to skyrocket your career in terms of, because people are attracted to people that are kind. People are attracted to people that are respectful.
Yeah.
People are attracted to people that can hold a halfway decent conversation and shake your hand when you walk in the door. And these are all the kinds of things that you learn from coming to BYU-Idaho, being involved in FHE, going on a mission. It's just, it feels like a sacrifice at times, but it really, I can't express enough just how much preparation that gives you for the real world and putting you above people from other parts of the country.
I think you're right. I think people are attracted to the light of Christ, which we get to learn while we learn our education, and then we get to take into it. So I think it's right. There's so many times where you meet people and you connect with people, and I'm sure you've gotten this before, especially in your careers, where they're like, "Oh, there's something different about you," or "You're so kind," or "Why are you so happy?" And it's because of the light of Christ, which is amazing.
Right.
Awesome. My name is Grace, and this is the Fulfilling the Mission podcast. We're so grateful that both of you guys joined us here today.
Thanks for having us.